Hello and welcome to OpenAPI tutorial on YouTube channel of tutorialspedia.com. In this video tutorial, we will see how we can design and document a RESTful API with Swagger editor using OpenAPI specifications 3.0. Here is the detail of what we are going to cover in this video tutorial and the details of the use case that we will take into consideration. We will be designing and documenting a basic RESTful API in the Swagger editor using OpenAPI specifications 3.0. For that purpose, we will think of a scenario of a student API, and we will have a student resource with the operations to get a specific student based on a query parameter, and in the query parameter, student name will be passed. And we will have a post operation where we will be providing uh, facility through this API to add a new student. And then we will also see that how we can have a path parameter with the student ID, and for that resource we will have a get operation. So we will cover that how we can use components and we can make things reusable while creating the schemas, and we will shed a light on different aspects and different features that are available in OpenAPI specification 3.0. Before we proceed with this video tutorial, I will request you to please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so that you are able to get latest videos and you are notified for any new videos uploaded. I have already opened editor.swagger.io in my browser. This is the YAML editor where we will be designing and documenting our API. And this is an intelligent tool which provides you a bunch of suggestions whenever you press Control and space, and you will be using this editor to design and document your APIs, and then you can proceed with the actual backend implementation. Let's start for our specific use case. The first thing that we have to do is that we have to specify whether we want to use Swagger 2.0 or we want to use OpenAPI specifications 3.0, because this editor supports both. In order to use the suggestions within this editor, you will have to press Control and space from your browser, from your keyboard, and you will see a bunch of different options available. Let's select OpenAPI, and version we will be choosing is 3.0.0. And then you will observe that as and when you are updating your API specifications in the editor, things are reflecting on the right side of your screen, because whatever changes you are doing are automatically loaded and shown over here. And you will see if you have any errors. Most probably, most of the cases, if you have anything wrong with the indentation, because YAML is very strict with the indentations, and you have to make sure that you are indenting your elements correctly. Secondly, if there is anything else wrong in your API specification in editor, you will see it on the right side. Right now, since we are just beginning our changes to this editor, so we ignore these errors, because these errors are showing that some of the mandatory elements are missing. Yes, they are missing because we haven't yet added. So let's say add the elements one by one. The first thing that we want to do is that we want to add the basic information in metadata of our API. For that, we will use this info tag, and within the info you have options to add your API title, description, terms of service, contact, license, and version detail. Some of these elements are options, so it's not mandatory for you to add and populate everything. So for the title, I'm going to write student API, and then I want to use the description student demo API by tutorialspedia.com. And then I don't want to write any terms of service URL, and I will just write contact details. For the contact, you have options to add name, URL, and email. I will just use name and URL. For the name, I will write tutorialspedia, and for the URL, I will write http tutorialspedia.com. And then after that, I will write the version. This is the version of the API that we are going to design. So I'll write version 1.0.0. The version that you see on the top is OpenAPI specifications version, so don't confuse with that. This is the version of your API. Sorry, let me correct the indentation. Right. So next, what we want to do is that we want to add the servers. Let me explain you about the servers because it's a bit different from Swagger 2.0. In case of 3.0, you have option to add multiple servers. It's an array of servers. So if you want to define your dev, QA, and production servers, or if you have multiple servers, you can specify the URLs of those servers over here. So here in the servers, we are going to first define our first server, which is, I will put a dummy URL, devapi.com. You can add the description as well, but I will ignore it. I will just write the URLs, and the next one will be prodapi.com. So I added two servers for my API, and you can see that same is reflected on the right side. The next thing that I want to do for my API is that I want to add the paths. So inside the paths, you are going to specify your API resources, and then within those resources, you will specify your operations like get operations, post operations, etc. So inside the paths, I will first write my path slash student for the student resource. And then inside this, let me write the description student resource. You can write the in the actual scenarios, of course you will write more meaningful and more productive type of information for your API, but in this case it's just a demo, so I'll keep it simple. The next thing that I want to do for my student resources to define the operations, which are basically the HTTP verbs. The first one that we want to define is get operation, because we want to define an operation where users can query certain user can query information about some students based on a provided query parameter. So inside this, I will write the description. I will write operation to fetch users, fetch student, and then I'm going to specify parameters. For that, I will use this parameters option, and inside this I will choose whether it's going to be a header parameter, query parameter, or what type of parameter. So I'll choose query parameter, and then I will write the name of this parameter, student name, and then I'm going to specify, let me correct the indentation. Yeah, indentation is important, otherwise you will not be able to get the suggestions. So here I will write required as true, because we want to keep this student name query parameter as mandatory. And then we want to specify the schema here. In this schema, we are going to specify type. So this student name is going to be a string. And if you want to have an example, you have many options you can see here, which you can use, but it's not necessary that you use all of these. I'll write the example as Ajmal, which is my name. Okay, so what we have done is that we have specified a query parameter. Now what we want to do is that we want to specify the response. It should be in the next level, not here. So I'll choose the responses, and inside the responses we are going to specify which HTTP code for which we are going to write this response. In the production and the real scenarios, you need to make sure that you are covering all of the response codes or all of the major response codes, and also a default scenario. But in our case, we will just go for a happy scenario of 200 error code, which is a success response code. And then we will specify description, success response. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select content, and here I will choose whether we want JSON or we want XML. You can choose both as well. I'm going to choose application slash JSON, and then let me indent it. We are going to select the schema. Here, it's important to understand for the schema that what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use two approaches. The first approach is to define all the details of your response and request payloads within the details of your operation, as we are going to do over here. But there is another better way, which is to use the components. And in case of components, you make the reusable schemas, and then you can refer to those schemas from any of the operations. First, we will go with the basic version where we will define the schemas here. Later, we will move them to the component section. So in the schemas, I'm going to specify type. And in case of this get operation, we are expecting that we can have an array of students for the same name. So we will choose it as an array. And then I will choose items because it's an array, so it has item. And then we will specify the properties. So in the properties, we will define all the details of the student. Student id we have to specify as type integer, and we have to specify example. Let's put 3. And then we will have student name, and this is going to be of type string. And example that we put here is, let's put something else, David. And then we will have student remarks, just another element, and this is going to be of type string. And example, high high grade student, just a sample remark for this student. So now we have defined the response structure, that the students array will contain student object, and each student object will have student ID, student name, and student remarks. Now we are done with our get operation. What we want to do next is we want to define post operation. So at the post operation now, so we selected the post method, and now within the post, let's write a description, add a new student. And then here, in case of post, we have to specify request body because it's expecting a request body in a JSON format with the student object. And here we are going to specify content. In case of content, we have to choose what kind of content it's expecting. So we will write application/JSON. And then here we have to write the schema. In the schema, we will write that we expect a student object. The difference between get case and this case is that in this case we are not expecting an array, rather we are expecting only one object. So we will write the type as object instead of array. And after the type, all the items that we have will be same. So sorry, all the properties will be same, so we will just copy the properties from here and we will paste it here just to save our time. Okay, so instead of writing, I'll just paste it the same level. Right now you will see error because we haven't added the responses. So what I will do is that I'll go to the same level of indentation as the request body, and I will add the responses. And in case of responses, we will have to choose that which response codes, HTTP code we want to cover. So we don't want to cover all of the response codes. We just cover the happy scenario of 201, and then we will select the description. The description that we want to write will be successfully added, record successfully added. And then what we want to do is that we want to specify the content. Rather, we don't want to specify any content because to keep things simple, what we want is that we want just a response without any particular details. So we don't need to put the content here, we will just put the description in case of 201. So the response code 201 will serve the purpose in this scenario. Now we have post operation, we have get operation, and what we want to do is now we want to have our student resource with path parameter. For that purpose, let me do one thing. I'll make it smaller so that we know exact indentation path. So I will write here slash student and I will put ID inside. So in this way, we want to create another resource with path parameters. Now what I want to do here is that first I will try to update the basic information like summary or description, get student based on path parameters. Then after that, I want to use this get operation for this. And in the same way, we will add the parameter. And in the parameters, we will choose in, and here we will choose as path because this is going to be a path parameter. And then the name of this parameter should be exactly same as we specified here, which is ID. And then after that, let me indent it correctly. We have to specify as required true, and then we will have to specify schema. In the schema, we are going to select type. This type is going to be integer. Okay, so now we just need to add the responses at the same level as query parameters. We are going to add the responses, and the response for 200, which is a happy scenario only, we are going to put the description first, success response with path param, and then we are going to select content, and inside the content we are going to select application slash json, and then inside that we are going to select the schema, and inside the schema we are going to copy paste from the get operation that we did before to save some time. Let me copy it from the other get operation that we did before. Again, we will think of it as an array. Actually, with the ID it should be only one object, but still we want to consider it as an array. What I will do is that I will copy this from inside the schema everything. So I need to correct the indentation. Okay, so with the indentation corrected, the error is gone. Now we have all the operations ready. If you see here, we have a get operation which is expecting student name. We have post operation which is expecting this example JSON as a request body, and we have a student with path parameters, which is the third operation available. Now let me do one thing. As I stated before, I want to use components instead of writing this thing again and again for the request and response schemas. We want to write the schemas at our root level. So let me first copy this one. I'll copy the properties. So at the root level, what I need to do is that I need to add the components. So inside the components, I need to add schemas, and here I'm going to define two type of schemas: a single student object and array of students. Let me first define student, and inside the student, we will have to define all the details for this schema. Let me paste the details which we already, rather let me write it so that you understand it better. I'm going to write the type. For the student, the type is going to be object, and then we are going to specify properties. And inside the properties, now I can paste it. Let me paste the properties. and do the correction for the indentation. Okay, so what I have done is that I have created a schema object with the name student. You can see here that it says that it's declared but never used because we haven't done the referencing. Next, I want to create another object, another schema with the name students. So in this case, I want to define its type as array, and then inside this I will define items. Inside items I will define the properties. Properties will be same, so I'll copy the properties. So it has some indentation problem. So let me fix the indentation problem for this. Yeah, so you can see that now indentation problem is gone. Okay, now what we need to do is that once we have defined these two schemas inside components, we need to change what we have done before to refer to these components instead of writing all these schemas within each and every operation. Let's go to student resource, and for the get operation, here you can see we previously defined this schema. So inside the schema, I'm going to remove all this and I'm going to write $ref, and then here we are going to refer whether we want. You can see that it has shown us both of the schemas that we defined. So in case of this scenario of a query, we are expecting that it can return an array of students, so we will choose students. In case of post, we were expecting as an input only a single student. So what I will do is that inside the schema, I will use $ref and I will refer to individual student. In a similar way, in case of path parameter based operation, here I'm going to refer to student array. I'll write $ref and then I will choose students. So now what we have done is that we have all of our operations, and all our operations are referring to respective and the needful components which have been defined for our API. So this way we have completed our API, a basic API which has all the basic information, which has details for the server, which has all details about the three operations that it has. Get operation for the student with the query parameter. As you can see here, student name as query parameter. We have created a post operation which is expecting a JSON as an input, and in the response it's just returning a response code. And we also have created another operation with student having an ID as a path parameter, and it's also returning in the response an array of students. So this is how we create a basic and a very formal type of API design and documentation using OpenAPI specifications. This editor is very handy, and if you have any questions, feel free to write in the comment section. I'll try my best to respond to your questions. Just play around with this Swagger editor and you will explore it further. The only important thing is to understand the concepts, that how APIs are structured, what is the relationship between different components within the API, how we make sure that each and every operation that we have in our API is having the required request and response structure. So once you are aware of these things, then syntax is not that much important, and because we have different other tools as well which provide us these options as in a visual manner. You can also uh, try with the Swagger Hub, which also provides quite efficient manner of designing and documenting the APIs. That's it from with this video. I hope that this information that I conveyed to you through this tutorial is helpful. If you have any questions, as I stated before, don't forget to write in the comment section. And again, I'll request you that if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon. Thank you very much.